And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, December 9th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We are going to talk about the shootout between the Rams and the Bills, a very high-scoring game. The Rams picking up a huge win, 44-42. And it seems like in games like this, the Rams are always involved. You know, you go back to 2018 when they beat the Chiefs 54-51, I think the final score was. So, it's not the first time that the Rams have been involved, or Sean McVay has been involved, more specifically, in a high-scoring affair like this. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the Chiefs, speaking of, another win for them, another divisional win for them on a game-winning field goal that hit off the upright and went in. So we'll talk about that game as well. They beat the Chargers. Same score as last week against the Raiders, 19-17. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into talking about the Jets officially being eliminated from playoff contention with the loss to the Dolphins in overtime. We'll also get into talking about Kirk Cousins and his return to Minnesota, how he did, as well as talking about Sam Darnold's performance, because Sam Darnold looked like the better quarterback yesterday. And then we will preview tonight's game between the Cowboys and the Bengals to conclude Week 14. So I hope everybody had a good weekend. And, you see all the Yankees stuff in the background. And, if you're a baseball fan and you heard the news of what happened last night with Juan Soto going from the Yankees to the Mets now, yeah, it was not a good night for me in terms of that. But that's a separate topic. Let's just get into the football stuff now. So let's talk about this game between the Rams and the Bills, shall we? So I got to say, I was very surprised by, how high scoring it was. But I honestly thought that the Bills were going to run away with this game. I did. I thought that, they were rounding into form. And I just thought that with the Rams offensive line, I thought that the Bills defense was going to give that offense a tough time and give Matthew Stafford a tough time. But that did not happen. The Rams, they had the lead pretty much the whole game. The Bills were playing catch up the whole time. And, just when you think when the Rams go up by 10, or actually, no, they went up by 9 because they missed the extra point, you thought that, that was it. The Bills scored again. And, if they recover the onside kick, who knows. But the Rams won this game, and you got to give them a lot of credit. I was definitely surprised by the outcome. I thought this game was going to be similar to, the game against the Eagles that the Rams lost, against, the Dolphins as well, where, the offense was going to struggle and the Bills were going to put up a lot of points and run away with it. But, look, the Rams have a lot of good players on offense, and they have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and they got the win. And it is a huge win for them because they keep pace with the Seahawks in the NFC West. So they just got to keep pace with them because they do have an opportunity to take the NFC West when they play the Seahawks at the end of the year. If they're still within striking distance, if they're a game back or if they're tied, that could be what it comes down to. That could be the game that Sunday night that NBC flexes into, and that could be your final game of the regular season. Comes down to the NFC West between those two teams. But we still got some time before that. But there was over 900 yards of total offense in this game. You had the Rams finish with 457 total yards, and the Bills had 445. And there were a lot of guys that had big games in this game. Well, a couple of guys, really. Josh Allen had 6 total touchdowns in this game. So we talked about last week, he scored 2 touchdowns on one play. He had 4 total touchdowns in that game. He had 6 in this game. And if you had him in fantasy, I did in one of my leagues, good for you, because he really came up clutch for you. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, and he had 3 passing touchdowns in this game. He had over 300 yards passing, 82 yards on the ground. Khalil Shakir had a nice game, 5 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown. Matt Collins had a touchdown. Ty Johnson had a touchdown. And then on the Rams side, Matthew Stafford, 320 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kyron Williams had 2 rushing touchdowns. Puka Nacua made some great catches in this game, and he had that touchdown that put them up by 2 scores late when they went for it on, they did go for it on 4th down on that drive. It was on a 3rd and 5, and Nacua scored a touchdown there. He had 12 receptions for 162 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp had 5 for 92 and a touchdown. That was on, so that was, that's what put the Rams up by 9. And they went for it on 4th and 5 from the Bills' 35-yard line. That was a huge gamble, and it paid off. Stafford connected with Tutu Atwell for an 11-yard play, and they got down to the Bills' 19, and on 3rd and 5, Nacua scored the 19-yard touchdown. And like I said, that put them up 44-35. And the Bills still had all 3 of their timeouts left, and they eventually got down the field, scored a touchdown. Josh Allen scored from 1 yard out, had the rushing touchdown, and that made it a 2-point game. But the Rams were able to get the onside kick, and they got the win. They actually, so they punted it to the Bills, and I guess maybe they thought they were going to have more time. They maybe were going to have 1 second to run a play, but the Bills could have returned it, and they just let it, go out of bounds, and there was no time left. So kind of interesting how it ended there, but I mean, this was back and forth and back and forth. The Rams, they went right down the field on their first drive to go up 7-0. This was a Kyron Williams touchdown. Then the Bills answered with a touchdown of their own. This was Josh Allen's first rushing touchdown. Then the Rams answered with a field goal. A block punt in this game made a difference because the Rams returned that for a touchdown, so that put them up by 10. And then the Bills answered with another touchdown. This was Ty Johnson's 41-yard reception for a touchdown. Then the Rams responded with another touchdown. That was a Puka Nacua. Oh, so his second touchdown. This was a rushing touchdown. I forgot about that one. So that was from 4 yards out. So he had 2 touchdowns in this game. So that made it 24-14. Bills then punted. So it was 24-14 at the half. Then the Rams went up 31-14. The Bills did get the ball to start the second half. They punted. And then touchdown by the Rams. So that made it 31-14. That was a Kyron Williams touchdown. Then the Bills answered with a touchdown. A Khalil Shakir 51-yard touchdown, broke a couple of tackles and scored. So it was a 10-point game. Then the Rams answered again. Stafford to Cooper Kupp from 17 yards out. And then the Bills answered with another touchdown. Josh Allen, 1-yard rushing touchdown. So they were just touchdowns all over the place. Like I said, going back and forth and back and forth. A punt by the Rams in the fourth quarter. And then the Bills made it a 3-point game. Josh Allen connected with Matt Collins for a 21-yard touchdown. And then this was the drive that basically iced the game. You converted with Tutu Atwell on that 4th down, and then Puka Nacua scored a second touchdown. That was a 19-yard touchdown on 3rd and 5. And then the Bills, they scored a touchdown to make it a 2-point game. And like I said, Rams recovered the onside kick. They did punt it back to the Bills. The Bills didn't return it. There was no time left. And that's all she wrote. And the Rams, like I said, they pick up a huge win. They're 7-6. They're a game behind the Seahawks in the NFC West. And they just got to keep pace with them. They got a big game coming up on Thursday against the 49ers. The 49ers, they got back on track. We'll get to them this week. We'll talk about how their game went against the Bears. But it's going to be close. It's going to be very close. Right now, the Seahawks, they got the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Rams left on the schedule. It's a very tough schedule coming up. The Rams got the 49ers left. They got the Jets. They got the Cardinals at home. And they got the Seahawks at home. So, I like the Rams' chances. I'd like to see the Rams get to the playoffs. It's just, they had to work their way back into it with the injuries that they suffered early on. But, how about that win for them, though? I did not expect them to score this many points. I was surprised by how poor the Bills' defense played. But they were going up against a good offense. And this is a Rams team that, if they make the playoffs, they are very dangerous because of the playmakers they got on offense. The defense was playing better in recent weeks. Not here. I mean, but they were going up against a good offense with Josh Allen, who I think even with this loss, he is the favorite for MVP. I mean, while it didn't help Lamar Jackson that he was on a bye, Saquon Barkley also had a good game yesterday, but I think right now, Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns yesterday in total. Right now, he is the favorite. He is the clear favorite for MVP, and barring a setback, he's going to win the MVP this year. He is. So, and it doesn't get easier for the Bills because now, back-to-back road games, now you take on the Lions next week, which could be the game of the year. Right now, this looks like this was the game of the year, the way this went. This was an unbelievable game, very exciting, and, this was, like I said, big win for the Rams, and for the Bills, it's just unfortunate because, we'll talk about the Chiefs in the next segment, but, now you drop 2 games behind them for home field advantage. So, right now, as it looks, the Chiefs are probably going to end up with it. So, now the Bills just got to maintain the number 2 seed because you got the Steelers right there with them. They're both 10-3. Steelers picked up another win yesterday. Russell Wilson played good. We'll talk about them as well during the week. And that was without George Pickens. They didn't have George Pickens in that game yesterday, and Russell Wilson still played well. So, yeah, the Bills right now, I think they're going to be locked into the 2 seed. But, this was a road game. And Josh Allen did play really well. I do worry about the Bills going on the road in the playoffs. Now, if they're the 2 seed, I mean, really, they're only going to be going on the road if they have to go play the Chiefs. If they match up in the AFC Championship game. This is hypothetical, but this is what could happen. But some of the other teams, though, the Texans are locked into the 4 right now. And, the Steelers right now, they got a 2-game lead over the Ravens. So, it looks like could be them winning the North. And the Bills, if they get the 2 seed, like I said, the only team that they would have to go up against on the road right now is the Chiefs. So, and I think, they'd have a good chance to win that game. I almost combine good chance and good and shot together, but because if the Bills had to go on the road and take on the Ravens, I just how the game went with those 2 teams early on this season, I wouldn't have liked that matchup for them. But right now they're the 2 seed, they're in a good spot, and it's definitely going to be an uphill battle to try to catch the Chiefs there. But this was an unbelievable game, and let's see what happens going forward. The Rams, they take on the Niners this Thursday. That's a big game for both teams. The Niners, they're still not dead yet. They definitely looked like the Niners in that game against the Bears. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. And then for the Bills, like I said, they take on the Lions in Detroit. So that should be a great game as well, and we'll see if they can bounce back. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break. When we come back, we will discuss the Chiefs and their win over the Chargers. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.